And I have some slides to share today too, Perry, a little walk down memory lane.
Memory lane for who?
for you.
For me?
Yes.
No. Oh, okay, I'm ready.
We're going to pull this up and here we go. So this is a little, this is a slide. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Living Well Today. I'm Angela Moonen and I have a really, really special guest with me today to help share his story. What an amazing story it is. That is Mr. Perry Noun from Tea Time with the ProNoun. Welcome, Perry.
Thank you. It is an honor, and I'm flattered that you would even think of doing this webinar.
Well, Perry, each week I start off. I think that there's never a time more so in the world today than starting off with this slide. It's one of my favorite sayings of all time. And I think you are the epitome of living well today. And we're gonna share why that is. But this is, I know how important your family is and your home and your community. So this may well resonate with you too, Perry. And that is, when there is beauty in the character, there is harmony in the home. When there is harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. And when there is order in the nation, there is peace in the world. And it really does start at home. It starts at home. And we're going to talk about the impact that the support from Perry's wife, Linda, and his 4 beautiful children and 3 grandchildren, the impact that they've had in supporting and guiding him, because it's never a solo act, is it, Perry? It's never.
It can't be. It cannot be a solo act, period. You have to have a support. Oh my goodness. Oh dear.
So we are going to take you all down a wonderful, wonderful lane of memories from, look at that cute little boy. I mean, is that?
Okay, listen, that first photo, that certainly has to go back to my childhood. And all I can tell you is this: I am one of the very fortunate. I understand that because there are children who grow up in the world under circumstances that are not very pleasant. But all I can remember of my childhood is that I was happy. That's all I can remember. I don't remember any bad things happening during my childhood, any crises. I just remember being happy, and that has to be my mother and father. You know, the way they raised us. We learned very early what was right, what was wrong, to be polite when we were in public. We were like soldiers lined up, you know, when we went out. And it was a wonderful child for me, because that's all I can remember, just being happy.
Just being happy. Well, that looks like that's a happy boy in that photograph. So we do want to talk about your parents, because they're such a huge influence in your life for obvious reasons, obviously from a young age, but even to this day, how you consult them and how you filter through the lens of, you shared that with me in a previous story, of how whenever it comes to a major decision, or maybe even a small one, you look to your mom and dad and say, what would they want me to do? I mean, I think that's beautiful.
That is exactly right, especially the major decisions that I've had to make in my lifetime. But my mom and dad were really the foundation, you know, the common denominator there for me, because they always taught us the right and the wrong. We learned that very early. And whenever I had to make a decision, I always thought, what would they think of that decision that I made? And once I started thinking about them, the decision was easy. It was just broke it right down, and I knew what was the right thing to do. I don't know how else I can explain it.
Well, they certainly raised a young man to understand of how to make a difference in the world, how to be a competitor, how to be a leader. So let me give you a little bit of background about Mr. Perry Noun. I mean, I felt like when I looked through the bio that you sent me, Perry, I mean, we've known each other personally for many, many years, but you never really know the full person, right? It's always just layers and layers and layers, particularly someone as accomplished in the different arenas that you've played in. I mean, you've gone from sports to business to on-air personality. I mean, you've run the gamut. So you're coming up on 25 years of being on air, something you never imagined all those years ago that you'd ever be an on-air radio host. You are, I mean, it's incredible. A golf writer for the Golf Writers Association of America. You've been the executive director for the Northeastern New York PGA section. You co-publish a magazine called CNY Golfer. You are in the Ithaca College, my alum, by the way, also IC. I'm an IC grad. Not only were you the dean of students there at one point, you certainly played on their football, their baseball, their basketball teams. You were captain. You are in the IC Sports Hall of Fame. Impressive. And along with this cadre of interviews and circles that you've played in, literally and figuratively, you managed to raise 4 children and are part of the lives of 3 grandchildren and a winner of over 140 competitive golf tournaments. It's not a solo act, Perry. Pull the curtain back a little bit. How did all of this begin? Your hunger for the competitive arena, sports?
Good question. It probably goes back to my youth in Rochester. And by the way, you were the one that said you wanted me to give you some background on myself. And it's the first time that I sat down and I said, gee whiz, I got to put my whole life down. And so I did the highlights, and on one piece of paper, it's an 8.5 by 11. I said, my goodness, there's my whole life. But it would have to go back as early as I can recollect, probably when I was 8 or 9 years old. I used to, back then, I could drive to 4 different playgrounds in Rochester, New York, on my bicycle. And there was one favorite playground I have, number 11 in Rochester. And I'd go there because they had a baseball game, a softball game going on pretty much almost every day. And then there were 2 captains who were usually the best players. And then everyone else would line up on the first base line. And little me, I was probably 2-3 years younger than everybody else. And they'd line everybody up, and the captain would get the bat and put their hands on top of it. And okay, you get the first pick. I wasn't picked. I was not picked. And then when I wasn't picked, I'd run out to right field. There was a tree out there. And I'd sit under that tree, and I would sort of cry every once in a while because nobody picked me.
Yeah.
I cried under that tree. I remember that. But that wasn't the real the key, because one day they were out in one of the other fields. Just they all decided to throw a ball. Everybody wanted to see who could throw the ball the farthest. And I watched everybody because I just followed them, just saying, okay, I'm going to watch everything I can to learn as much as I can. And they started to throw the ball. And I saw the first couple, and I said, gee whiz, I can throw it that far. And I watched everybody, and then everybody had finished throwing the ball, and I was the last one. And I said, is it okay if I throw it? And they said, yeah, sure. So they gave me the ball, and I threw it past everybody else. From that day forward, they picked me. That was the day that they started picking you, when they saw me throw the ball farther than everybody else did. So that's how I kind of got into the competitive part of playing sports. Well, as a youngster, but you usually have some incident that sort of put you in another gear.
Yes, that kind of takes it up to the next level, gets you more serious.
It takes it up to the next level,
yes.
But that's what happened when I was sort of like as a real youngster, but it didn't happen until I was in high school. And the captain of the football team in high school happened to be a member of my church, the Greek Orthodox Church. And he was the captain of the team, and I was sort of a timid kid. I was not a really aggressive kid. I was sort of quiet because I'd always played sports with older kids, so I had to sort of stay in the background. I wasn't as tall as they were. I was always considered a little mutt running around. But
Perry is not a tall man, by the way. So
no,
to those who say, in order
don't have to tell everybody. They think I'm 6 feet tall right now. Who cares? Who cares?
My point being is that, there's those stories of, they say, well, you can't be an NBA player, you can't be a pro baseball player, you can't be if you're not of certain stature, and that's just not, Perry broke those barriers. So anyway,
it wasn't me. Long before me. In fact, you might not know, or you may know, Phil Rizzuto, who was an all-time Yankee great player, played shortstop for the Yankees when they were winning world championships practically every year. I think they won 9 out of 10 World Series. Phil Rizzuto was only 5'5", but that was then. See, you could get away with it. You could get away with it back then, and I did too. Today is a different story. If you're 5'5" or 5'6", you've got to be really, really exceptional.
You made your way from the little boy that wouldn't get picked for a team to being a part of the professional, the Chicago Cubs professional club. How does that? That's a journey, Perry.
Yes, that's a journey. In all fairness, I was a member of I played in the Chicago Cubs organization, so I was a professional baseball player. But I never played in Chicago. I was at their highest minor league affiliation, which would be similar to, let's say, the Syracuse Chiefs.
Yes, exactly. Yes. That picture that we saw. Yeah. Yes. And so what was that experience like?
Well, I'd have to say that it was probably, it's when you graduate from college, most kids are looking for, are they going to go to get their master's, or are they going to do something else, or just hang around and do nothing? They're looking for a job, right?
Right.
And I was lucky enough. We went to the regional finals in Princeton, New Jersey in my senior year. And I really had 3 really good games. And the scout said he was going to come over to sign me. He wanted to sign me to play in the Chicago Cubs organization, and I thanked him, and we set up a date at my father's restaurant in Rochester. But I found out that I also had a letter from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Canadian Football League, and I was the only one on the team that they invited. And I told Coach Dick Lyon, God rest his soul, that I had to make a decision, and I didn't think that I was big enough, to go up there and play with those boys. But if I hadn't had the opportunity to play baseball, I probably would have. I think they wanted me to play defense participate as a defensive back. But baseball was my game, and so he was sort of disappointed that I didn't go up to Canada. I played baseball. It was a wonderful, wonderful 6 years. I had the opportunity to play with Hall of Fame players, Lou Brock, who went on to play, not only Hall of Fame with the St. Louis Cardinals, Ron Santo, who was with the Chicago Cubs, whom I got to know really well when I went to spring training with the Chicago Cubs. But that one incident, I want to go back to that one incident, which really kind of got me to the point where you have to, something has to snap, and you have to go to another level, and it has to be an aggressive level. You can no longer be timid. You can no longer just go through the motions, because nobody's going to notice you. But going back to high school, I remember I decided to go out for football, and I went to practice, and I was always just going through the motions. And one day, that captain, who was a member of our church, he said, "Perry, come here a second," because I hit one of the dummies that was there, and it wasn't very aggressive move. And he said, "Stand over there." He says, "This is how you're supposed to hit the dummy." And he went into his 3-point stance, and he was about 5 yards away from me. And he took off and he started running right at me and put his shoulder down and hit me right here in the upper stomach and chest. And bam, down I went. He said, that's how you're supposed to hit the dummy. And I was startled, but I really got sort of angry because I didn't know he was going to do that, because he sort of hurt
Yeah.
me a little bit. He hurt me. And he said, now look, he said, I'm going to stand over here. He says, now you come and hit me. Oh, so this was my chance for a little revenge. Well, I was really charged up for that, because he allowed me now to do something, to be aggressive. And I said, well, I'd never been in that situation before. Okay, now you hit me. I did. And it was my mind, everything was focused on doing that one thing, just hit him as hard as I could. And when I did, he didn't get up right away back then. All right. So I knew that I had accomplished something. And that was the day that I turned into, I got away from that timid side of me and playing sports to a very, very aggressive. People used to consider me a dirty player, and I really wasn't. I really wasn't. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, that doesn't add up to me. Knowing your spirit and knowing your intentions, that doesn't sound like you.
No, it really doesn't. Because when I played team sports, it was all about the team. Let's support the teams. Encourage the players to play more aggressively. Be more focused as a team, because you can't win football games without being a team. You can't have one person. You might have one star, but even that one star is not going to.
And it's not enough.
That's right. It's not good enough. So I participated in team sports. I didn't realize this golf was a totally independent. It's almost like it's no longer a team sport. It's an individual sport. And then you have to rely upon your patience, your focus on yourself, because nobody was there to support you anymore.
Right.
Golf was a totally, and I was so aggressive. And I'll have to admit, when I first started playing, I played fast, I played aggressive, and I walked fast. I did everything fast. And you have to be more patient when you play golf. You really do. And I had to learn how to do that, which was one of the most difficult things I had to do, because it's totally different than being aggressive.
What had you pick up the golf club, Perry? Because it is so different than everything else that you had done prior to that. And let me just preface by saying, again, this is a gentleman who not only is a player of the sport of golf, but also is coming up in 2024, 25 years on the radio live every week, doing a wonderful golf show, Tea Time with the ProNoun. And it's on an iHeart radio station, and it's through podcasting as well. So you can get the podcast, you can download, you can listen to any of his episodes through iHeart Radio, 570 WSYR based in Syracuse, New York. It's a very different sport, Perry, than it's this level of mastery that I think is a lifelong pursuit. I don't think you ever really fully master the game. I golf, but I'm not a great golfer, but I can appreciate it. And I've been to the TPC, the Players Championship a few times, et cetera. And of course, I have clients who are very into it. I'll go out on the golf course with them, but I'm not passionate the way that you are about it. What led you to it? And what are the differences? What are the things that it's helped, I guess, as a sport, help cultivate in you, aside from the patience?
Well, after being pretty active in college, in high school, college, I went from football, basketball, baseball, football, basketball, baseball. I did that for 8 years, right? And then when you get a job right after my baseball career, Ithaca College, that was the first year that they were on the Southfield campus. Southfield, is that where you?
Yes.
You were in one of the dorms?
I was in East Tower.
Oh, of course, the East.
Yeah.
Many a day have I spent in the East Tower there, Angela.
Yeah.
So I was looking for something to do, and I do remember somebody asking me to play in a golf league. And then I tried that, but I didn't play every week because there were things going on at campus.
Right.
I tried it. I enjoyed playing golf, but there was no family back then when I was a Dean of Men. You know, my wife and I just lived on campus. But it was, I think the thing that got me into golf was I decided at one time I wanted to win just one tournament without using my handicap. I was always in the second flight, third flight, and just use it as a, let's say, recreational part of my life. And I said, darn it all, I want to win just one tournament. And I remember it was a tournament. It was at the Edison Club over there, just north of Schenectady, New York, where I belong. And I said, I'd like to win just one tournament with no strokes. And it was a Cancer Day tournament. I remember that. And there was a morning shotgun and an afternoon shotgun. There were probably 160 golfers in total, but realistically only about 60, maybe 50 or 60 could have possibly won it. And I said, I just want to win one tournament, but there were blisters on my hands before that. I wanted to try to win this one tournament, and I got in it. And one of my golf mentors, by the way, a gentleman by the name of George Freeman, played with me that day. And it was one of those times when I was there because I wanted to win it. And I was playing along. I didn't even know what I was shooting, quite frankly. I just tried to play the best I could. And I remember him coming up to me on a par 3. And he said to me, and I had 3 holes to go. And he said to me, Perry, if you make this putt for par, you might win this tournament. I wasn't even thinking. I was just trying to do the best I could, and it sort of it startled me for a second. I made the putt, parred the next 2 holes, and I won the tournament. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, not only did I win the tournament, I won, I think, $250 in the pro shop. They gave me a green jacket that I still have, by the way, in my closet. And they had took a picture of me, and with the paper. Next day, I was in the paper, and I had a chance to talk in front of 250 people at the Edison Club, the clubhouse ballroom. And I said to myself, wow, this ain't bad. I said, that's what started it. I was 42 years old, and I had made a commitment to try to win just one tournament. I just wanted to win one tournament because my kids, my 4 kids were starting to play. And that was the beginning of my, after that, it was, I was on a mission. I wanted to win as many tournaments as I could.
140. I think you shared.
Yeah, I'm 140 and still counting. And I know I'm pretty lucky at my, shall we say, advanced age, because I'm not, if it wasn't for my daughter, Dr. Holly Noun, who, by the way, is our family's health advocate, it would have been very difficult because I've been pretty active. I do a lot of stretching, but there is one, I don't care how much stretching you do. I don't care how much strength training you do. It's still going to boil down to, you can't beat Father Time. Sooner or later, the body's going to start to break down, Angela. And it's, you have to accept that. And I guess you have to learn how to sort of manage your issues as they come up.
Work with it.
We all have issues.
Yeah. And I think, there are every day, I mean, the longevity resources and the tools and the insights and the wisdom that come along about longevity, it's an ever expanding realm of information and helpfulness. And, you are, and I know Dr. Holly is on with us today, the Beamer. We'll talk a little bit about this technology, but there's a a piece of technology that your daughter introduced you to, that you purchased for yourself as well, that has brought you to a new level of just enervated your game of golf, how you play your tournaments, how you feel every day, the amount of energy that you have. So there's the physical aspect of longevity. There's also the spiritual aspect of longevity. And I want to talk a minute before we go into talking about today. I want to take us back again a little bit to talk about what your parents instilled in you about church, how important it was as a cornerstone for you and your family. You lived near the church growing up, yes? The Greek Orthodox Church, it was right around the corner from you?
Actually, when my parents came to the United States and started their family, there was a church on the corner, but it wasn't the Greek Orthodox Church.
Oh, that's right. This is fascinating. That's right. Share that.
Yeah. All right. It wasn't the Greek Orthodox Church. It was a Methodist church. Maybe it was there was a church on the corner.
It was Baptist, church. It was Presbyterian,
yes,
it was
whatever
but it was not Greek.
And
yes.
When my dad worked sometimes 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. Well, not on Sundays. On Sundays, we were at the Greek picnic. That's where we were, and church and Greek picnic. But we were, sometimes he wasn't there even on Sundays. But even on a Saturday, if for some reason there was something going on at the church and it involved kids, all we had to do was just walk like half a block and we're in church. And the one verse in the Bible that I remember, I don't know why I've remembered it all these years, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. That's my favorite. And it wasn't the fact that you had to go to a particular church. It was that your faith, your belief in God was more important. All right. And so and I'll have to admit, I don't go to church as often as I should. But there are times when I went more often than other times, just because of what's happening. But my mother it was my mother at this point who said, we're going to go to church. All right. Even if my father couldn't be there with us, we were going to go to church, and because there was only one car in the family back then, and he'd go off somewhere and that's where we would go. Not all the time, but when we couldn't go to Greek Orthodox Church, that's where we went.
You would go to whatever church. And there's I've shared this with my own daughter and my own family, that I have a strong belief that, our church is also in our heart, and our actions, our deeds speak louder than our words. And so, through, whether it be through an act of kindness, bringing levity and laughter and lightness to somebody's day, that's practicing your religion, that's practicing your faith. And that, I think it's wonderful that as a family, you had that opportunity to be so connected, because I think today families have a tough time breaking bread together, making sure that they have dinner together around the family table, or spend time together at the holidays in a way that where everyone gets a chance to be together. And part of living well today, I think, is I've been studying, I mentioned the resources earlier. There's a show, Perry, I don't know if you've caught it, on Netflix, and I've watched him on Instagram for a very long time, but it's called The Blue Zones. And he just recently brought this show onto Netflix. And there are parts of the world, blue zones. And there are
blue zones, okay.
Yeah, blue zones. And he refers to these blue zones as different areas he's studied that have particularly long life, healthy life. So not just long life, but they live well. The quality of their life is wonderful, well into, the most centenarians of anywhere on the planet. So he identified, I think there are 5 or 6 of these blue zones. The Sardinia, the Italy and Greece area is one of them. And a lot of that they attribute to the Mediterranean diet, right? All of the olive oils and the beans and the et cetera. Another is Okinawa. There are a few fish, a lot of fish, etc. But talk about, was your mother a big cook? Was food an important part of your life?
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Listen, please remind me to say, I was going to say something about my dad.
Okay.
Please remind me to get back to what my dad told me at a very young age. But talking about cooking, oh my. We had probably every type of Greek cuisine that you could possibly have. There were 4 of us, 4 children. And whether it was the special dishes they made or souvlaki, the rice, the beans, the lamb, the sausage, the Greek bread, all the traditions of Easter. My mother was a wonderful cook. Baklava, and the spinach pie. The spinach pie was what she was really known for. If the spinach pie that I used to watch her roll and roll and roll, and the phyllo bread, into those circles around the big huge pie. She was a wonderful cook. But as she aged, I remember going to visit her when she lived with my brother Bill, God rest his soul, in Oswego. I used to go visit, and she'd make something to eat, and I'd sit at the table and just eat and eat and eat. And I could tell every once in a while, I never said anything about the food when I was eating it, but she'd always be looking around, like this, always wondering, because I think that's a sort of a trait of great Greek cooks. And she always started staring at me. I just never looked up. I could tell she was staring at me. And finally, I just sort of, after a long wait, I would sort of sit back and I would say, Nana, that was exquisite. That became her favorite word in the English language. That was her favorite word. She was
waiting to hear that word. That's a great word. I might do my word of the week on that next week. That's a great word.
Exquisite. Now, there's another, I want to go back to my dad.
Yes, your dad. Yes.
At a very young age. And if we just follow this, Angela, not only with family, with friends, with community, and even in the world, my dad said to me, look, he said, here's what you have to remember as you grow up. You have to treat other people the way you would like them to treat you. And of course, as a young kid, you're trying to think, what is memorable, what isn't memorable. People say things and it goes in this ear and out the other one. That one went in here and it stayed here. It didn't get out there. Didn't go out the other ear. I said, wow, but think about that. How simple is that?
The golden rule.
Yeah. Just treat other people the way you want to be treated yourself. Now, I know that he had heard that because I don't know who came up with that saying, but that's been around for ages. Oh, just treat other people the way you want to be treated yourself. That was like, that's
rooted in the Bible as well. I'm not certain which book, I'm not certain, but do unto others as ye would have done unto yourself. It's rooted in the Bible, the golden rule. Yes. Yes.
He didn't use the golden rule words. He used words that were going to go in here and
a little boy. Yeah. And a little
kid.
Something that a little kid would understand.
He didn't want to read the verses in the Bible to me, And it stuck. It stuck and it worked. It worked throughout my elementary school recollections, high school, college. I always wanted to, especially with the team sport concept, I was so enthusiastic when I played. I always wanted to support somebody for getting a hit or hustling or winning a game and even in losing a game. In
Yeah,
order
we've talked
to,
about that. You don't like
yeah,
to lose. I
no,
remember
we
you
don't
said,
like
don't
to
like to
lose.
lose, but some of the most helpful lessons are learned in that time.
Amen. You have to learn how to be a good loser before you can be a good winner. I'm
Mm.
convinced of that. Jack Nicklaus, I remember, and it isn't just the physical part of athletics. When Jack Nicklaus on television, he won a U.S. Open. I can't remember the year, but one reporter, this was on television, reporter popped up with a question. He said, Jack, he said, you seem to rise to the occasion in the majors. And he said, what part of that is mental and what part of it is physical? And immediately I said to myself, 50-50. All right. I don't know what other people were thinking, but to me, I answered the question as fast as I could. I said, 50-50. He said, well, he says, winning is 85%. The physical part is 15. I said, wow. Even our lives, if you think about it, Angela,
Yes.
you know, physically we're going to be there, but it's what we think. It's what is right and wrong in our heart, and how you prepare yourself, or how you're going to manage some difficulty with a health issue that comes along. And I've had those issues. You know, you're still,
Yes.
as you age, you have issues, so you have to learn how to manage them. But sooner or later, Father Time says it's time. All right, we're here. We've enjoyed ourselves. We've done the best we could. And for me, I want to do that as long as I can, because I know now, you know, when you lose a younger brother who passes away before you do, you start thinking about your own life, your longevity. And it's not supposed to be that way. It's almost like the oldest is supposed to pass away first. And it didn't with my brother. And I spent 25 years with him, practically every day, talking to him, having breakfast, having lunch, having dinner with the family. We lived with them when we first retired up in Oswego, and he passes away unexpectedly. You have different thoughts in your mind, you know, when
After
someone,
that.
especially my brother, who meant so much to my family and my brother and sister. Bill was really a special person. In fact, there's a senior league that I play in now that my brother enjoyed playing in, because it's a handicap league.
Okay.
And it's a handicap league. And for me, I usually play in tournaments where you get no handicap. What you shoot is what you shoot. But he enjoyed playing in it. And I'll never regret. I remember asking him, I found out about it. We did play, but he loved playing in those events. And for the last 2 years, since his passing, we give out the Bill Noun Award now.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, for the player who best exemplifies Bill's spirit, the way he conducted himself, his enthusiasm for the game. He used to play his ukulele when we were out there playing sometimes, you know. It was, my brother was a wonderful, wonderful person. And I remember I cannot express, I don't believe I can do a good job of expressing how much he meant to the community. I can't go anywhere in Oswego, anywhere, without somebody knowing my brother. He decided to run for the county board of supervisors, and he never spent 10 cents with advertising, Angela. Think about that. He just went and knocked doors. He was a teacher for 55 years, and we give out that award. And this year, there were dual awards. There were 2 people who got it. And when the award was given, Jerry Farrar from this organization, I think they call it the Tuesday Tour of America, a bunch of people that just educators, and my brother knew half of them, and Bruce Altieri both run it. My brother loved going there. And when we gave out the award, both of the recipients, I could see it as soon as he mentioned their names, they were like, oh, their body language. It was almost like, Oh, wow. Me?
Oh, Bill,
Oh,
now,
wow.
right, right,
Me?
right, right.
Which was exactly the way that I would like. I think Bill would be real. Well, he knows because he's looking down.
Yeah,
I think about him every day because I have a picture on my dresser every day of the two of us. So I say goodnight to him every night. He's along with my mom and dad and everybody.
yeah, yeah,
Life
of
is on,
course.
life is on. So here we
Yes.
are. And
Well,
so
and with them by your side, as you say, with them by your side, and guiding, a helpful and encouraging guiding hand. So I want to share another slide of you in your glory with this is you. Look at, with the microphone in your hand, with a microphone in your hand.
there's Joe Convertino.
Yeah. And
Oh,
this is going back some years, Perry. So talk about,
well, only a couple.
yeah, just a few. What can you, I mean, you've done, could you even could you even muster the number of interviews you think you've given over the 2.5 decades that you've been doing this?
Uh,
Wow.
I think I'm up over, for sure. It would be, but I used to take a break, 2 months, 3 months. I don't do that anymore. I go 52 weeks. I do have every single name of every person that I did interview because I have a format for every show. So I do have that. And yeah, I do
One of
have
your
that.
favorites. One of your favorites. Can you think of a time?
Arnold Palmer.
Arnold
Palmer. Period. Arnold Palmer. Who interviews Arnold Palmer? Oh, that was wonderful.
What did you call from? What did you call from that? Was there a little nugget of wisdom like you did with your dad? Was there a little nugget of wisdom that even if Arnold, in the way he led his life and the way he played the game, as you look at him, and if you were talking to a young golfer or a young gentleman starting out trying to decide what path am I going to take in this life? I mean, if you were sitting with Arnold Palmer right now, what aspect of him did you really admire?
I think his attitude when he played. He reminded me of a cowboy that would not wear one gun. He was a 2-gun cowboy for sure. All right. And his aggressiveness on the golf course, but always watching him, no one would spend more time signing autographs for 2-3 hours than Arnold Palmer. No one. And when he signed his autograph, Angela, it was in perfect script. You could read Arnold Palmer. And someone asked him that question, Arnold, why do you take so much time to sign your autograph? And he said, if somebody's going to take the time to wait for my signature, my autograph, I'm going to make sure they can read my name. And there's no question. Now you think about it, look at all the other signatures.
Yeah, scribble.
Right? Yes or no? It's a scribble. Arnold took his time. And that's why his legend, his contributions to golf, to charity, to hospitals, started this whole thing. He was really the one that kind of broke the mold when TV, came into prominence, because there were no TVs hanging around. The first TV I remember was a 6-inch screen, and we could walk out the door with it. It was a suitcase. That's our first TV that I remember. But I don't know how much time we have, but
we have about 15 minutes or so left.
Okay.
And so
I've got to tell you.
Go ahead, love. Go ahead.
Were you gonna bring up that Beamer again? Because I feel.
Yeah, I do want to. Well, I want to talk about, much like you're saying, Arnold had an attitude. He had a mindset on the golf course. He had a mindset in life and giving back. There are many tournaments and different things that have initiatives and charities that have been named after him. That vitality, really. Like, I look at we talk about the blue zones, but my grandfather hailed from a little island off of Sicily called Lipari, not far from where your family was rooted.
Oh, wow.
And he came here to Oswego when he was 9 years old. My grandparents, my great grandparents, he was a cobbler, a shoe cobbler, my great grandfather Joseph. And my grandfather grew up in the 1850 house. Remember that place that was the 1850 house on the main drag in Oswego? And then they turned it into a restaurant. And then that was my grandfather's childhood home.
Oh,
Right on Bridge Street there, right on the main
on Bridge
drag.
Street.
Yeah.
What part of Bridge Street?
Right there, just as you come across the bridge, I think it was like the 1857 house or the 1850 house. They called it something like that for many, many moons.
Okay, coming across from from east to west, was it on the right or the left?
On the right-hand side.
The first building?
Yeah, that looked like a house. It was a shoe store for.
Oh
many,
my
many years.
gosh.
That was
Oh
my
my
grandfather's childhood home. Yeah.
Oh,
And my grandfather lived to 99 and my grandmother to 94. And, you know, they were always moving. You know, I know Dr. Holly, is your daughter's always told you, Dad, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And my grandparents were always moving, whether it was out in their gardens, you know, weeding, their vegetable garden. My grandfather's vegetable garden was very much a source of pride and joy for him. And nothing like going out and taking a bite of a fresh tomato or a green pepper or something right off the vine, right? And that vitality, I think, you know, they passed many years ago now, but when you look at your own vitality, and I'll let you share or not share, but let us say that you are into your 8th decade on this planet.
Oh, who said that? Who said that? No.
And I think that there are some, but you have the heart of a child, you know, that a childlike enthusiasm for everything you tackle. Today's show, you were like, I'm going to have it set up. I want it set up the way that I wanted it. You don't ever do anything half-hearted. Talk about the things that you cultivate within yourself to keep moving, to stay interested, stay engaged, keep that curiosity going. And then, yes, talk about the technology and the resources, especially through your daughter, of that you've been introduced to as of late.
People are what their genes say they are, Angela. You can't fight genes. It's part of your
expression. Yeah, it's how the body expresses. Yes.
You get 32 from both your mom and dad. So I am who my mom and dad were in essence. And my mom was always energetic. My father was a hard worker, always telling stories. So I see myself, I have my father's joy from telling stories. And I think I see both of them in me every single day. And now I look at my children and I see bits and pieces of my mom and dad, you know, and them as
sure.
Well, and our grandchildren. And so it's got to be the genes. So whatever combination floated to me rather than to my brother Bill or Chris or Connie, it's got to be your family. It has to be from your mother and father. Because there's no other way. You know what I mean? It has to be the gene pool.
And then how do you nurture that, though? How do you leverage that to the best that you're able to? I mean, certainly movement, really, the physical body is really important.
I'll tell you, there are times when you wake up in the morning and you don't feel just right about things. Things don't go well. Life is not 80-20 or 90-10, Angela. To me, life has always been 60-40. If 60% of the time things are okay in your life, you're supposed to say thank you, because the other 40% is a tough little gig, Angela. It really is a tough gig out there. Think about it. Personal relationships and family and friends and work. And the world now, in the turmoil that we're in the world. So life is 60-40. And sometimes it's hard. It's very hard to maintain that little, that attitude sort of being positive and hustling around all the time. And sometimes you have to learn how to just fake it a little bit. And if you try to fake it, sometimes it works.
It brings you out of it. That's right. That's right.
You can't be walking around with, a sour face. When I lose either a baseball game, football game, basketball game, or a golf tournament, I have to be left alone. Don't bother me for a few. I got to be left alone, and then I'll recover, and then bingo, I have to snap that switch, because when I get out of that mode, you got to pop back. You can't allow these defeats. And the worst word in the English language to me is failure. I wish we could wipe that out of the darn dictionary. You know why? There are no failures in life. No failures. I'm absolutely convinced. You know what they are? They're temporary setbacks, period. That's how you have to accept them.
That's right.
No more failures. I don't like the word failure. You fail at school. Bull. No failures at school.
That was one of my questions, is always, what's your least favorite word? So I know that. What's your most favorite word? What word? I mean, we heard exquisite, so I got to do something on that. But what is your favorite word?
4. 4. Thank you. I'm sorry. We have a better world, period. You say thank you every day. Try to say that 10 times, 20 times. And also, I'm sorry, because there are times when you should say I'm sorry and you don't. Thank you, or I'm sorry. Those are the 4 most important words in the English language, or guess what? Anywhere else in the world. Angela, a couple of years ago, I could feel my body was breaking down. And I appreciate you were very tactful. I'm in my 80th decade. So what's the big deal anyway? I don't know anybody's birthday anyway. Anyway, so 2 years ago, my body started to break down. I could feel it. I still stretched. I still moved. I still did everything I could, but I could feel it like I had to withdraw from golf tournaments. I never get withdraw from golf tournaments. I had to withdraw from golf tournaments. And after my brother passed away that same fall, our daughter Holly told us that she had a very serious health issue, and she got through the operation, but we didn't see her walk for over a year, Angela.
Wow.
Yep. And in her rehab, she met a physical therapist, Sue Coda, and or Coda, I believe it's pronounced, and Sue introduced her to a product and a procedure that she started using. And it was, I don't know all the technical aspects. All I can tell you is that it increases the flow of blood in your body to the point where it allows your body to do what it's supposed to do, heal as much as it can.
Heal.
You need to have your blood moving.
Because you have that flow. You
need that flow of blood. And when your muscles get tight and you feel lackadaisical, you don't feel that bursts of energy. It's because things are slowing down. I did not like that feeling. I told her I would try. She said, Dad, you and Mom got to get on this thing. You got to get on it.
And it's a mat. It's a mat.
Okay.
It's a mat that you lie on.
Pad. It's a body pad, but they have other attachments for your wrists, for your elbow, for your shoulder, for your hips, for your knee, for your ankles, anything, for your neck. I started using it in January, about the middle of January of 2023. And I was withdrawing from tournaments. The golf season that I have just recently completed, the competitive golf season, I have played in more tournaments than I've ever played in one single year. In September, I played in 10 tournaments in September, and 3 of them were 2-day tournaments. I just couldn't believe what was happening. And then as I think back on everything, I only did 2 things different. And it took 8 minutes in the morning, and it took 8 minutes at night. Every morning when I get up, I don't do anything before I lay down on that beamer pad for 8 minutes and just go, whoa, I just try to crash.
Yes.
When the 8 minutes are completed, I feel like I'm ready to go. I can stretch, I can walk, I can move, I can shave, I can do whatever I have to do, dress up, and I'm gone. You know, I can
And
get
then
on
you
with
do
the
it
day.
again at night. And then you do it again at night before you go to bed.
It is absolutely the last thing I do, because I still go over to the clubhouse here where I live now. And I hang, I do some stretching, and then I go home. And but I brush my teeth. I do everything I should do. The last 8 minutes, I turn on that beamer and I lay down there, and I can feel how it's affecting my body, getting the blood flow. And then from there, I just go boom, I'm sleeping. That's my
And
routine.
I would guess that you sleep better as well. Yes.
I do. Of course. Yes, of course I do.
Yes. Yes.
I
Because
used
that's
to get
so
up.
vital too, having that sleep to have allow your body to repair and rest.
Well, living well today. I suggest, it's going to come. Europe has been aware of this Beamer product for 25 years.
Dr. Holly, if you're on here with us, could you put it in the chat? Could you type it in the chat for everyone so that so that we can see where we can learn more about this? Because it's Beamer, BE, not like the BMW car.
No.
It's BEMER.
Yes.
Is that right?
And it goes right along with your living well today.
Yeah, for sure.
But by the way, I did this because of Holly. I was reluctant at first because, I'm moving around. I want to move. Now I got to lay down for 8 minutes. That's what I did. And I know, I honestly believe that is what is giving me, giving my body enough time. It is recovered from the activities that I was in. Usually if you don't, I remember my daughter saying, it's just as important to stretch after you work out or play as it is before. But the Beamer is what I attribute to let's say this surge of energy this year and playing. I shouldn't be playing this well. I really shouldn't. I've done some really remarkable things.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, in golf especially.
Well, all right. So we have a few minutes left. I want to share with everyone that they can listen to your show every Saturday through iHeartRadio 570 WSYR. I'm going to put that in the chat also. And that you are on YouTube and Facebook. We've been putting clips of your show up weekly. So 570 WSYR AM radio. And that's an iHeart station based in Syracuse. But because it is in digital form, you can listen to it anywhere in the world. And that's every Saturday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. What do you love most about being on the air? All these years, Perry, what do you love most about it?
There's a certain excitement that I get from being, it's almost like a reality show, because I don't like the take shows. I really don't. I prefer to be live because I'm going to make mistakes. And in life, that's what happens. You say things and they don't come out right and you make mistakes, but you have to deal with it. It's the excitement of kind of getting on the air and bringing guests on the show who know something about golf, or because it's not just about golf. We talk about golf, we talk about life, we talk about community with Joe, on CH Insurance, Tony Calashabetta from CAMS. Not only has he been the longest sponsor I've ever had, he has become a very, very dear friend.
He's a beautiful gem of a human being. He and Kim and his whole family. Tony Calashabetta, great name too.
Yep.
So what would you, with your wisdom, what would you say to a younger Perry? That little boy on the playground that didn't get picked for the teams. I mean, there are kids out there that don't get picked. I was one of them too. Wouldn't get picked for the team. There were other things that I could do, but I didn't excel at the physical aspect of that until later on in life. So what would you say to the young Perry, knowing what you know now?
Angela, this last summer, not only did young Perry the Fourth, not only did his father, Perry the Third, he was a coach on this team. I was also a coach. They had 3 Perrys on the little league team that little Perry played on. But the little kids, you never know. You can never underestimate anybody, nor ever you shouldn't underestimate anyone, nor overestimate them. Never underestimate or overestimate. You have to give them time. Just don't give up. Do not give up something that you really and yet you're passionate about. Sooner or later, you'll figure it out. And because if you do quit, and by the way, I made the decision to leave baseball. And that was a hard decision for me to make. They didn't release me. I made the decision to leave. Had I not, there's no question I would have figured out a way to get to Chicago. I would have done whatever I wanted to do in baseball. But it was another issue. I'll tell you about that some other time. Don't ever give up. But guess what? If that hadn't happened, if that wasn't part of the plan, if that wasn't part of God's plan, it wouldn't have happened. So I would never be talking to you today. I would never have the family that I have today. I would never know all the friends I know today, do the radio show and do all these things in Syracuse, New York. I'd have been somewhere else in the country. So I have never regretted a single experience I have ever had in my life. I've been disappointed going through them, but that's part of life. You got to deal with it and manage it. And so
that's at 60-40. That's at 60-40.
That's the 60-40 part. That's the 60-40 part of life. And there you go. There you go, Moonin.
All right. And I got one final question for you, dear. And
Yes.
first of all, thank you again for your time. You have a lot of commitments. You have a lot going on, and I so appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to bring us into your little corner of the world. I think when I had made posts about this, I had said, and Joe Convertino says this about you as well. The most energy in any one human being, I think, that I've ever met. And before I introduced him to you, I said, you have to meet this person. You're going to love this person because he's someone who has more energy than you, Joe. And Joe said, that's not possible. And I said, I'm going to tell you what, it's very possible. It's very possible. And this is the guy. So thank you. Thank you for your friendship and for your time.
No, thank you.
One last question, and thank you, Dr. Holly. She did put the information on there that you can reach out to her at hollynoun@gmail.com with questions. And it is also holly-noun.beamergroup.com. So you can find that. And then you know where to find Perry. He's on Facebook as Tea Time with the Pronoun, as well as YouTube, Tea Time with the Pronoun. And you'll be able to see this, of course, because it's streaming. You'll be able to, it'll archive on Facebook on the Living Well Today page. You'll be able to access it there. You'll also be able to access it on my website under the shows, Living Well Today show at angelamoonin.com. So Perry, one final question.
Oh,
yes. What if I asked 100 people, 1,000 people, Perry Noun is, what would you hope that they say about you? Fill in the blank. Perry Noun is.
Perry Noun was a good person.
A good person. That's it.
Yep.
Pretty beautiful. Pretty beautiful thing. So thank you so much, and wishing you all the best for living well today, everyone who's watching and will be watching in the future. And we thank you, Mr. Noun. We'll be tuning in every Saturday morning.
And here's what I'm doing that I always do when I leave my family or
yes, the thumbs up. Thumbs up. Beautiful. God bless all. Bye for now.